Boy, Mars Mirage. Definitely know what time it is. Back in the Midnight Mirage. Just want to, welcome all the people out there. I see you all enjoyed the last few tapes. That makes me very, very happy that you all got something out of it and you all could relate, to what we were talking about and what we were discussing. As I always say, that is the point of the tapes for me to put something out that we are all familiar with. Add my own, personal custom twist, and basically just try to make stuff make sense, man. So I'm just real happy to see that out there, both men and women. I got a good response from both men and women. So that's a good thing, man. Salute to all, all y'all out there, man. That's a real good thing. Also the brother, that made the song, going at the whole pale Catholic Jesus, y'all salute and shout that brother out. Check out my last tape dealing with the 1985 and beyond pyramid generational, pyramid building. And I left the SoundCloud link in that tape. So y'all check that brother out, What I'm going to do in this tape, man, is for real quick, real briefly, I just kind of give you all some of what I've been personally seeing and feeling in my own life as it concerns so-called black folks. It's really always been the same, but I guess I can, say it more formal right now for you all, because I may have said this before, I may not have. But my relationship with black people has always been no different than it was with certain guys when I was younger growing up. Because I always had that Martian force about me, I'm a warlike being. That's part of how I am. So whenever there were conflicts or my friends would have certain confrontations, a lot of the times, I may have been the one to actually swing or do something on their behalf, and they may not even really, be fighting for themselves a lot of the times. So this is something that I'm very, very used to. And when I look at my relationship with so-called black people, it's kind of the same. And also let me say this real quick too. Here in the Midnight Mirage, personally, there is really no room for us to be racist because, first of all, we not controlling no kind of money systems or anything like that, and second of all, on a real bigger level, to keep that shit really 1,000 with y'all, it really ain't no point. When you vibrating at such a higher level, when your soul is vibrating at such a high level, your spirit really is in tune with you, and you really in tune with your being. That low frequency shit like racism and all that, you really ain't got to play into it. The only thing you got to do really is just defend yourself and destroy certain things that shouldn't exist. So it's really just it's something no more than like a parasite. Let's just look at it as something like a parasite, no victim mentality. And also this too, in my own growth, we can even have the mentality also that you gotta have your eyes open, man, and really deal with people as individuals, whether they be, a Caucasian person or whether they be an Indigenous American. Let's try to just deal with people on the individual level and try to go against, let's say, the stereotypes. And that may be the stereotypes of Caucasian people or the stereotypes of Indigenous Americans. So let's try to go above and beyond and not necessarily judge people based on the stereotypes, but based on what they show us. So if we come across a Caucasian person, that don't necessarily mean we got to think that everybody is racist. But what we going to do is we going to check and screen this person, and whatever they show is what we going to label it as. So if they coming, you know what I'm saying, and they ain't on no shit like that, and you don't feel that kind of subtle energy, okay, that is what it is. But if they coming and you feel that shit, or if they just on some outright racist shit, then now it's time to go into Terminator mode. Now it's time to go into Predator mode and literally slice their head straight up on off. So it's all about what they really show, and it's the same with so-called black folks or Indigenous Americans. Like if you come across one of our people and they don't see that it's a problem with black on black crime, no different than it is with, Caucasian police shooting our people. If they don't get mad about the black on black crime and realize that that's some bullshit, just like the brothers and sisters getting shot by the police. This is not somebody that, is really one of our people. They may look like us, but they ain't really down for this shit. They not on some generational pyramid building type shit. Because anybody that's killing our own folks is not on the home team. Whether they be, like I said, Caucasian or American. So, we got to check that bullshit out. But if you come across a so-called black person or an indigenous American, and, you see that on they individual shit, they holding this thing down. So they ain't got to run around being on no pro-black shit, trying to wake up black people and all this whole fake woke shit. They ain't got to be on none of that. Like, if you see them and they on they individual square, you know what I'm saying? If they in their own individual Merkabah and they're vibrating at their own frequency, at their own rate, then this is somebody that is, one of the people. This is somebody that we need to be rocking with, showing love, you know what I'm saying? Protecting, giving resources to, exchanging resources, etc. But nevertheless, this is one of the people that we need to value. So it's very, very important in this time of Leo right now, with this constellation of Canis Major and this serious energy pouring in, just valuing the people within our own community who are on some real shit, whether they the so-called nerd archetype or whether they the so-called street archetype. You know what I'm saying? All our people got a certain skill that they could probably be used. The only thing that really is important is that are they down for the cause, and are they trying to goddamn individually do the best they can to clean their own life up, and maybe the so-called black people or the indigenous Americans in their own circumference, maybe they try to, do something to put on for those people. So that's what it is. It's like if all of us as individuals would just take this shit serious for ourselves and our own family and friends and our own personal environment, if all of us do that, then that's how everybody will get so-called saved. It ain't got to be this fake ass, put on goddamn, flyers and say we gonna all meet at this time and go. It ain't got to be that fake group shit like that. That's that old, you know what I'm saying, Piscean, not even really Piscean. That's that old, back in the time of Moses. You know what I'm saying? When the people were roaming through the wilderness, there's this whole group and this whole herd mentality of thinking that we all got to come together to get some real big shit done. That's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? That's not how it works. If you want to become like me in basketball, like I didn't become a great basketball player overnight. I just trained and was playing really since I was really a baby. But nevertheless, that's how it was. You know what I'm saying? When I was 11, 12, my handles, you know what I'm saying, and my pull up and my step back, my euro and all that, it wasn't as fire. It wasn't as on point until I got about 14, 15. You know what I'm saying? Grew a little bit more, got a little more athletic and stuff like that. But nevertheless, it's a growth thing. So it's the same thing. Like, as individuals, man, we need to really do this shit and just put on. And as I'm saying also before I move on, as individuals, it's not the ego thing. So yeah, you on the individual thing, but it's not like you just thinking it's all about you. You knowing that your individual thing is one part of the puzzle. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say it's because these bullshit statistics that they put out here in this bullshit U.S. Census stuff, when they try to say, oh, it's 40 million black people and all this kind of stuff, it's more of us here on this continent than anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, so really, y'all, don't go for any of that bullshit. But nevertheless, man, before I move on, all of us represent one little piece to a real big, massive puzzle. And every piece is important. So if you got a big puzzle, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you may have majority of it full, but if it's, you know what I'm saying? If you missing the pieces to the bottom left corner of the puzzle, you ain't gonna have no full puzzle, and you're not gonna get the full picture that you see on the box of how it's supposed to look. So we all know the potential of our people. You know what I'm saying? No different than when you buy the puzzle, you know what I'm saying, and it's still wrapped up in the box before you open. On the top of the box, you see how the whole thing look when it's put together. But when you open it, all the pieces are individuals. You know what I'm saying? You got to go through the process of putting them all together. So we got to individually do that. And a lot of niggers out here, black niggers or black Negroes, You know what I'm saying? You know, you got to play your own part and pull your own weight. You know what I'm saying? As they say, you bring your own beer to the party. Like, you got to goddamn fix your own life up. And when people come across you and they see you been goddamn on your own square, then they going to add, resources to what you got, and then they going to boost up what you got going on. But it's like, you got to at least have something going on. So you got to have some type of education shit going on where you on some school shit. Or, maybe if you had a little job and you were saving some bread for some type of ideas you got, you've been doing that. You know what I'm saying? Or you've been at home reading, you know what I'm saying? Reading every day, goddamn, just on your shit, just consciously and emotionally getting yourself right. But nevertheless, it has to be, you got to be doing something to bring your own puzzle piece, to the massive puzzle. And that's very, very important. And then I say this and wrap it up. I know in the past you all have heard volcanoes of anger, of Martian fire, put towards Caucasian people from Blackbeard. And I'm not saying you're going to stop hearing that. But to the Caucasian people out there, that probably, want to still see their people survive, and they may not have no hatred towards nobody else, but they just may want to do their own thing and, just want to survive amongst their own people. I don't really see nothing wrong with that. So to those people, I recommend, y'all just stay within y'all community and talk to y'all own people and try to, help them with the whole racism and all that. Because, see, when they come across us, we just going to knock their head off. We're not going to ask no questions, and we not, going to try to do this whole, you know what I'm saying, like Dr. Phil type shit. We not going to really be doing that. We straight knocking heads off. Trust me. So for the, so-called good white people out there or good Caucasian people, y'all need to really just talk to y'all people and, you know what I'm saying, help and deal with them. And then on our side, you know what I'm saying, Indigenous Americans, we need to deal with our own folks. All our reprobate, you know what I'm saying, bottom of the barrel scum of our own community. We need to deal with our own people. So that's what it's about. Like, Indigenous Americans need to clean up their people. You know what I'm saying? And Caucasians need to clean up their people. And after all that is done, and of course, this is not finna be tomorrow now. But after all that is done, you know what I'm saying, everybody can kind of just go and do their own thing. And everybody can live how they want to live. You know what I'm saying? But doing their own thing, not this whole, integrated thing. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, you ain't got to be integrated. Like, for example, I got homeboys, but I don't have to live in their house for them to be my partners. You know what I'm saying? We both got our own little homes or apartments or condos or whatever it may be. But it's like everybody can have their own shit, and people can still probably trade, do certain, business. Probably, even see certain things about, the culture that they may like or whatever. But at the end of the day, everybody go back to their own home. And I'm real big on that. So the whole idea of segregation is not really a bad thing. What it really is that it's just everybody having love for their own ethnicity and nationality and trying to keep that clean and make sure that they don't go bothering other people. And basically everybody can just rock and do their own thing. You know what I'm saying? So, but what I just said is going to come after much bloodshed, because a lot of Caucasian people are very, very stubborn. And the Most High put, you know what I'm saying, the Pharaoh curse on them with the whole ego thing. So a lot of them, although, they're going to have certain Caucasian people that may, have woken up to certain things and try to tell them like, hey, y'all, y'all need to get off the fuckery, X, Y, and Z. But they're going to have hardened hearts and calcified pineal glands, and they won't do it. And then that's when the Grim Reaper Blackbeard, you know what I'm saying, Samael archetype, Angel of Death archetypes, you know what I'm saying, Scorpion, Draconian, Typhonian archetypes, Saturnian, Martian, Plutonian archetypes. That's when we come out. You know what I'm saying? Lunar archetypes. That's when we come out. And that shit just be straight chaos and bloodshed. So what I'm going to do right now is we going to read a little deeper into some soul and spiritual things of Indigenous American people. Some soul and some spirit things. Okay? Connected to the soul and the spirit. All right? That's what we dealing with. And the resource is coming from some writings by an author named Samael Aun-Weor. Samael Aun-Weor. All right? In particular, one called Tarot and Qabalah by Samael Aun-Weor. and also just some lectures coming from Glorian Publishing Incorporated. All right, some different Gnostic teachings from this, website. So you can Google that if you want. But we're gonna just go into some stuff right now, dealing with the illusion of this moment and dealing with the soul and the spirit of the indigenous American. All right, let's go into it. The first truth is the ultimate reality, the ultimate nature of all things, what we call the absolute. It is the ultimate truth. It is the ultimate nature of all things. It is visible to the consciousness. It is visible to someone who is awake, but to us, it is invisible, unknowable. So let's go into this much deeper now. Quote, the absolute is beyond conditioned life. It is beyond that which is relative. It is the real being. It is the non-being because it does not have any concordance with our concepts. But the absolute is the real being. This is why we do not intellectually comprehend it, because for us, the absolute is like non-being. Nonetheless, it is the real being of the being. The absolute is not a God. Let me repeat that. The absolute is not a God, neither a divine or human individual. It would be absurd to give form to that which has no form. It would be nonsense to try to anthropomorphize space. Indeed, the absolute is the unconditional and eternal abstract space, far beyond gods and human beings. Let me repeat that part. The absolute is the unconditional and eternal abstract space, far beyond gods and human beings. The absolute is the uncreated light, which does not project a shadow in any place during the profound night of the great pralaya. The absolute is beyond time, number, measurement, and weight, beyond causality, form, fire, light, and darkness. Nonetheless, the absolute is the fire and the uncreated light. End quote. Samael Unvior, Tarot and Qabalah. So right now we're going to go into when you hear people say the Most High, okay? A lot of times when we talk about the Most High, we also mean the absolute, all right? So although you may have just heard me say the absolute, we also are talking about the Most High as well, all right? So we'll go through this and then just ultimately make sense of it, all right? Make it real plain. So the first, the real being. So as I've said before on previous tapes, that the human being is ultimately eternal and spiritual in its true nature. But when we come into matter, we assume what's known as the human brain, and we also assume what's known as an ego, and we develop what's known as a personality. And the collective of everything I just named is nothing more than an acting role that we use to play into this world matrix, okay? Because it's almost like if you play a basketball game or a football game or a baseball game, everybody has to take a jersey and have one particular number on the back of their jersey so you can be identified based on the number. Because in all sports, whether it's baseball, football, or basketball, our favorite player, we know what their number is because we identify them with that number. But nonetheless, they are not that number. The number is just something like an acting role that they use to play into the game. So the ego or the personality or the human brain serves that purpose. So when we say the being, or the real being, we're not talking about the ego or the personality. We're talking about what is actually behind and using that ego or personality. So this is what I mean by the indigenous American being eternal and having a spiritual soul source and also having an ego personality. All right. And what we need to do is get to the real being of the being, okay? And this is also the absolute. Also, we cannot intellectually comprehend it. So we can't read no kind of book. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that to try to understand and comprehend the absolute. If you want to understand and comprehend the absolute, understand and see basically, like as it says here, let's try to visualize this. The absolute is uncreated light. So visualize uncreated light. The absolute is abstract space, far beyond a God and a human being, beyond time, number, measurement, and weight. So that means beyond all the dimensions. Okay? The absolute has no form. So it doesn't make sense to try to give it a human form or put it in any of these other zoo types. So this is why when we read certain mythologies and we actually think that these different zoo types, whether it's ancient Egypt and you see Heru or Heru Quetzalcoatl and he has a hawk head, you know what I'm saying, with the cobra serpent, the Nagas serpent coming out of his pineal gland, and you take that on as actually being the Christ. This is just an ego or personality or an image that the human brain can use to try to understand something that is abstract or absolute. All right. So the absolute is beyond all that. All right. The absolute is the unconditional and eternal abstract space. So if we also want to try to have some type of relationship with the absolute, realize that the absolute is all around you. And also at nighttime, go outside and just look at the whole nighttime sky. All right. The absolute space. And this is what you are. Ultimately, your true being. All right. So now, give me a pause, and we're gonna go to something else. Y'all just kind of meditate on what I just told y'all for a minute. Just kind of meditate on that. Now we're going to read about the moon and Saturn. The old man of the New Year tradition represents Saturn, the ancient god whose original name is Kronos, the god of time, the god of death. Kronos is symbolically represented as an old man who carries a scythe. He represents the passage from one phase from another. He represents time and change. He is the seventh of the seven primary planets in esoteric tradition. In esoteric knowledge, in many places around the world, there are seven fundamental laws or forces that are symbolized and described in different ways. And those seven end with Saturn. They begin with the moon. All right? So we're going into the Saturnian lunar relationship. All right? The moon is a planetary influence that creates, initiates, begins. So remember, Saturn ends, the moon begins. Saturn ends, the moon begins. Physically, the moon influences conception, birth, creation. This is why in Western mythology, the moon is represented as a baby, a newborn child. Now that's very important and powerful because I think it's a new moon tomorrow. I'm not sure, but it may be a new moon tomorrow. So the new moon, this is that energy that we're talking about. All right. It is interesting that at this time of the new year, we also celebrate festivals or festivities related to death and resurrection. Specifically, the 25th of December, which is a symbolic date in which we celebrate the birth of Christ. Not only in the Christian tradition, but in many ancient religions. The sun god is born on the 25th of December. That birth that brings light into the world is made possible through Saturn, death. So this is why Saturn is what rules over the winter solstice and the Christos tradition. Okay? And also rules over Capricorn, which is during the time of so-called Christmas in December. All right. So this is just going over the process of the soul and spirit of the indigenous American, the eternal aspect of it, how it is immortal and goes from ego to ego or personality to personality. Okay, and the personalities build upon itself because a lot of the traits that are expressed through your personality or your current one at least, some of the attributes are already tied to your astral etheric soul body. So that means you have certain traits in this lifetime that you also had in previous ones, whether that could be good or bad. But nevertheless, the reason why they kind of carry over like that is because they are recorded and stored in your emotions or your soul body. You know what I'm saying? And that is also what the sixth sphere on the tree of life or Tiferet represents, or Leo or Christ. So this all is lining up with, the dog days of Sirius that we're in, because the soul or Leo or the emotions or Jacob or Israel, which holds, which is the human soul, this is what holds all your experiences and stuff like that. So this is what ends up influencing the personality and ego. So that is the relationship between the moon and Saturn, okay? The moon being the birth and Saturn being the death or the transformation and resurrection, all right? So that's why it's very, very important to kind of, to cherish the moment, you know what I'm saying? To always cherish the moment, because that is our Saturn, and the moon, you know what I'm saying? The moon birthed you, and Saturn is the one that, is also playing the role as the Grim Reaper. So when you don't value time and stuff like that, that's when certain Saturnian forces could play a part, in your life. So let me see real quick. I want to read to you all. Check this out. We're going to read a little bit more about the ego and the personality. The other factor or element that we discuss is ego, which is a Latin word that means I or me. So that's what the ego is. A lot of people make the ego sound like it's something bad, but it's just like I said, it's an acting role. It's the I or the me. So when we say I or me, like when I say, I woke up today and ate oatmeal, that I just said, that pronoun, that's the ego. Or if I say that shirt belongs to me, that me, that's the ego. All right. That's the acting role that my soul and spirit is using. We do not use the word ego in the Freudian sense. We use it in the more ancient sense that it is used in all the esoteric psychology systems of the world. Ego is a psychological construct. So that's what the ego is. It is a psychological construct, an acting role. It is a sense of me or myself that bottles essence. And ego is a construct within which is essence. So that essence that's within the ego, that's the soul and the spirit. That is what is animating or using the ego. It's no different than a hat. A hat doesn't wear itself. A human being wears the hat. So that's what an ego is. An ego doesn't wear itself. A soul and a spirit wears it. It uses it when it incarnates into the material world and uses a physical body. And your mother and father usually name the ego for you. So that's kind of how that goes. So whatever your name is, that's the name of your ego, typically that your mother and father give you. There are many egos. We say ego in the singular sense to talk about the whole sum of them. But practically speaking, we have many. So we have a lot of different egos, a lot of different angles and degrees and parts to our personality. You see, especially Blackbeard, Blackbeard has many egos and they serve many different purposes. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with a lot of my astrological energy, Blackbeard is a Gemini. So right there, you already have a dualistic, ego that my soul and spirit is kind of using right now as a trickster-like image, So I have many egos and many different faces, For example, like even when I'm playing basketball, I'm a lot more aggressive and I feel a lot more Martian-like, and I have a lot more Pluto energy being pump through my blood because I'm trying to assume a lot of power and a lot of dominance, a lot of greed. I'm trying to steal the ball. I'm trying to block everything that they try to put inside the goal. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to block every shot that they put up. I'm trying to dunk the ball in and literally crack the rim. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to assume a lot of power, and I'm really trying to go to war. So that part of my personality comes out. But let's say when I'm with my lady friends and stuff like that, and we chilling, I'm not in war mode. I may be in, more of my, what I'm saying, Blackbeard, the bachelor, or the romantic, role. So all of these are different, really egos, and all of us have them. You know what I'm saying? We just say ego to talk about the collective. The third element that we talk about is personality. Personality is derived from an ancient word persona, which means mask. So as I said, remember, it's an acting role, okay, or a mask, something you put on. The personality is our outward appearance or language, our language, culture, taste, personal history, etc., all of which relate to this lifetime, but which are completely superficial and impermanent. So all these things that make up your personality, they from this lifetime, but you may have had certain things that carry over from the previous one. So, your personality is going to influence how your outward appearance is. And a lot of this also has to do with your ascendant in your first house. With Blackbeard, for example, my first house and my ascendant is Scorpio. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm particularly ruled by Mars and Pluto. So that's why you hear me call myself Blackbeard or Mars Mirage, because my first house is Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So you're going to see a lot of that Martian and Pluto energy in my personality. But a lot of that is just, stuff that certain energies that have aligned with me for this lifetime that I'm using. Okay, or this mask that I'm using. So if you want to know more about your own egos or personalities, then look into your ascendant or your first house in astrology. So that's kind of it, that I'm going to talk about on this. But I wanted to just go into, some stuff, some real shit that was kind of on my mind that I wanted to drop on y'all. But, hopefully you all got something from this and you enjoyed the masterful reading of Blackbeard, so, even think about the different ways how I talk. Some of y'all probably hear the southern slang in my voice, the Atlanta slang, certain words I use, the certain street vernacular. But then when I start reading, you'll hear the academic education. You hear me saying the ing on all my words, the ly at the end of my words. So look at how the ego takes these different forms, you see. But that's just an example, how it says even your languages. But just some real esoteric inner science, retrograde science. Y'all stay tuned. I'm out.